has an extensive history in international business. He's been at the top of his field and decided that that wasn't all it was cracked up to be. And he and his wonderful co-creator, Tanya, created the Andreia method. And the premise behind the Andreia method is to inspire, influence, and impact your world by being who you are meant to be and not who you were told you should be. So, welcome back to the show, John. How are you?
I'm fine, Tony, and it's great to be here. It really is.
We enjoy doing this show so much that we'll be back again each week for another 3 weeks. And I love doing this show because I believe in what John and Tanya have created in the Andreia method. And I'm going to hand over to John just to quickly outline what the Andreia method is and why it will help you at this time.
Thanks, Tony. The Andreia method is an online program that will enable an individual to understand how their mind is working, how it sometimes plays tricks on them, and it's not always that interested in what you want out of life. It's more into keeping you alive. So it's very important to understand that the way you wake up is a bit like your cell phone. There's a default position. And that's the first part of the Andreia method, discovering your default. And once you know that, you can then make decisions with regard to who you really want to be. Are you now the person that you were born to be? Or who is that person? And there's a methodology that we go through there where we allow people to create a new you, create a new them, empower themselves to be the person they were born to be. And finally, the last module is about taking conscious action, because nothing happens without action, but it's taking action in a particular way with a particular awareness so as that you are moving towards that what you want out of life and not defaulting to the past, which is the standard human condition, is to repeat and repeat and repeat. So that's basically what the Andreia method's about, Tony.
Thank you. And we've been talking each week about the different modules. And last week, just a reminder for those listeners, we talked about your default position. And so your default thinking, or the stuff that you're pre-programmed with, often casts a shadow over everything you do. It's like an old computer program that you've got running on autopilot in the background of your life. And as John said before, it's how you wake up every morning and how it will stay until you take conscious action to change it. It's about the thought patterns and the programs that play out in our mind. And as we know, and as we talked about last week, our thoughts create our reality. And just a simple explanation of this, if you think about the development and invention of the car. So the car started as a thought in someone's mind, and that thought was then created into an actual automobile. And so it is with the power we have to change our lives. So, in this week's show, John and I want to delve into module 2 of the Andreia method, which is about creating a new you. But before we get into that, I want John you to remind the listeners where they can find information about Andreia method and where you can find the downloadable information, because we have a free downloadable sheet for the listeners to grab today. So John, over to you.
Okay, so listeners can go to our website, which is Andreia, ANDREIA .solutions. And when you just .solutions, not .com, not .com.au, just .solutions. When you get there, staring you in the face will be learn more about the Andreia method. Just click on there and you'll get to see the whole curriculum, everything that's in there, and you'll be able to take your own time to pick your way through it and understand what we're doing. But picking up on your point about the downloadables from Tony's website, isn't it?
Yes.
radiotony.com.
Look
And
under
at the
co-hosts.
and at the end of that downloadable, it's a fairly long one this week, it'll get you thinking about how you really want to live. there's a link on that'll take you to the same place, and you'll be away there. I wanted to pick up on that imagination because I was reviewing the work in the module 2
Yes.
this morning, and there's a great quote in there coming: imagination is your test universe.
Oh, I love
Cool, hey?
that.
Yeah, I love that too. I thought that, and she
Imagination
raised that. It's
is
your
your
test, is your test universe. And as I said last week, nothing exists in the physical world that did not exist in somebody's imagination first. So, and the other point you made about your default position being like a crappy old computer program, it's
yeah.
worse. It's worse because you deliberately put down that crappy old computer program, but your RAS is programmed without your input. It's generally about trauma and fear. And so your automatic reactions that are there to keep you safe by spotting the patterns in life and what's happening around you are generally programmed in a negative fashion. And you had nothing to do with it. So, yeah, it's a kind of crappy old computer on speed.
Yeah, John. And the thing is, a lot of people don't actually realize that their brain works on autopilot. It's only when you start to assess your life, think about your life, and start to allow yourself the wonderful luxury of just dreaming, using your imagination to create and think about what would your life look like if you had no barriers. That's the sort of imagination we're talking about. And for adults, it's easy for kids. Kids do this as part of their daily living, but we lose some of that beautiful creative imagination as we age. And I want to challenge you guys, if ever there's a time in your life to start imagining what your life could look like, it's now. If you're not happy with the way your life is planning out, if you're not happy the way you are existing in the world at the moment, I really want to encourage you to just jump on to Andreia.solutions, and no, it's not .com.au or anything else. It's just .solutions, because it does offer people solutions. Andreia Solutions, you can go onto that website and you can have a really good look down around. There's lots of information, and lots of the things that we provide for our listeners are to help you start thinking about what your best life might look like.
Tony, I
And
really, one of the things that's striking me nowadays is, and I've got friends in Oklahoma, and if you're listening, thank you. And, you know, we've been talking a lot about COVID, and it's pretty
yeah,
hard to avoid. And also a lot of the disruption that our listeners have been through in the United States. Um, there's the thought, look, we've got to come back from COVID, but do we really want to go back to the way it was before?
that's right.
Do you really want to go back to the way in which your life was before? And many people will be sitting there and going, yeah, look, I'm cool with that. That's great. But if you're not one of them, if you're one of the people who goes, there's got to be a better way. There's
Yeah,
got to be a way in which I can see through that. Well, you're the person I'm trying to talk to here. You're the one that I would love you to go and visit the website at Andreia.solutions. Have a look at the Andreia method. Understand how your mind is working, and how if you don't take control, you're being a little irresponsible. It's
yeah,
down to you. People talk about imagination. I've heard people say to me, "Oh, yeah, I don't have much of an imagination." You hear people say, "I don't have much of an imagination." What that's code for saying is that I don't really want to imagine what could be, because I might get a little upset about that.
yeah,
It's a willingness to go there, to take a chance, to be authentic, to be you. And that's the first part of the second module, which is called Create a New You. The first step is to speak the truth to yourself.
yes,
So the question is, do you want to go on living your life in this way? And you mentioned before about my career in international business and where I
Mm,
was at. And I remember the day, and I remember the light in the room and everything, where I, I, I turned to my then wife and said, I don't want to keep living this way.
yeah,
It was, that was the beginning of change for
for you.
for me. Now, I'm going to suggest to our listeners that they do not want to be anywhere near the degree of pain that I was in before I was prepared to admit that. All right, it's really smart to do an assessment of your life and go, okay, hey, this could be better. Do it before you're in great pain. But if you are in great pain, then this is a good place to start, is to go and
Because,
have a look
John,
and see.
you had it all. From the outside looking in, you effectively had it all. You had that globe-trotting CEO, money, toys, wonderful life that
Yep.
lots of us think is what we want. But you were not happy. You weren't loving your life. And that was the catalyst for you. You got to a pain point where you went, this is not how I want to spend the rest of my life. And you had it all at that point from an outward perspective.
Yeah,
It was
and it
only when
wasn't
you
feeding
started looking inward that you went, nah, can't do this anymore.
that pain point comes in many ways, and
Yeah.
I'll talk about Linda in a minute. But
Yes.
my own pain point was the loneliness
Yeah.
and living a lie. I was not happy. I could do
Yeah.
all this, but I wasn't. I guess I don't. I have to say, I'm doing right now, right at this
Yes.
very second, what I was born to do. And if I'm not doing this, then it's just not living for me. It's
Yeah.
like that. But over there, trading hours and time and relationships for the purpose of having multiple houses and driving a Lexus and all the rest of that. I mean, those are good things. Those are nice. I mean, don't get me
Yes.
wrong. Uh, but if they become your purpose, that's not a purpose. That's not a vision. That's not a mission. You're just giving yourself things. You're taking anesthetic so as that the pain is dulled, right? Oh,
Yes.
I feel better about the fact that I've missed my kids' birthdays because I've now got another house,
Yeah.
or because I've got the car, and the kids can go on expensive holidays. My kids used to
Yeah.
be able to fly all around Australia and indeed to the New Zealand and whatnot, just using my points.
Yeah.
So, oh, gee, my kids are better off. They can do what they can go wherever. But that doesn't create a relationship with your children.
Yeah.
That, and if it does, it's very much a trading relationship. So you become very isolated. And I related it to being a little bit like the wind. I came and went. I
Yes.
affected change, but nobody really saw me. Nobody really knew me. They only felt the effect of me.
Yeah.
So that's where I am pain point. But I do want to touch on Linda, because this is a simple case of a woman who lost herself. She was a
Yes.
professional woman. Then she had 3 children, moved to the other side of the world, and just got lost in being a mum and couldn't find her way out. And one day she picked the kids up from school and got home, and she was breathless. And she'd always been fit for most of her life. And that was the point where she said, "Look, this has got to change."
Yes.
She started working with me and with the Andreia method. And 12 months later, I get a link to a Facebook photo of her finishing a half marathon with her kids there, and she's saying, like, I feeling like the role model she wanted to be
Yes.
for her kids, right?
Yes.
And over that same period of time, she resumed or started writing her novel, which she wants to write, and she started that, and she sorted out her employment and got the terms and conditions that she wanted there. And much of that was because she rediscovered who she was and the power to speak her truth.
Yes.
and took responsibility for acting on it.
John, did Linda's journey start with a phone call with you? So did she start that progress having a conversation with you about what was wrong in her life? Did she reach out and talk to you first?
Phew. Yes, I guess
Yeah.
yeah, like the invitation was there, and she decided that, look, I'm going to take this invitation up. And as you know, Tony, part of what I do in my practice here is that I
Yes.
offer a free 2-hour consultation with people. If they want to look at one-to-one coaching, then that is something that is possible. And I sit down and we do a 2-hour coaching session
Yeah.
on whatever it is that the person wants to look at. And then we decide whether this is going to go any further or not.
Yes.
So, but of course, one-to-one's a lot more expensive than the online program.
Yes.
One-to-one coaching over what, 6 months or something like that is well over $7,000. So, and that's a price point that's very acceptable to some people, and that's definitely worth the investment. The reality is, data shows that people who invest in coaching get 6 to 7 times the money back. So,
They do.
I was going to charge my clients $500,000 a month so as they maximize their value, but it's a bit of a cash flow issue there. Just joke. Sorry.
Well, John, you know that we've talked about this before. I have had coaches throughout my life and throughout this entrepreneurial journey. So I absolutely know what value they can create in your life, because the problem is that you are often looking at yourself in a one-dimensional place. When you start working with a coach, however, they have the ability to see things that you don't see or you might not pick up. And then, because of the nature of what they do, they can help you get through those things. So, from your client Linda's perspective, she recognized and accepted that there was pain in her life. She wanted to get through, she wanted to be this other person that she felt she wanted to be. And that through that coaching, that's how you helped her do that. However, if people want to jump on to Andreia.Solutions and just find out about the course, which is a much gentler, easier way to start this process, because it's self-paced, self-directed, and you get to learn as you need to or want to, and still get the same types of outcomes and results. That's true, isn't it, John, from your
But look,
perspective?
when I talked about Linda before, it's tempting to say, oh, well, that was one-to-one coaching. That wasn't just using the
No.
method. But I have to say, it's adherence to the method, and it's
Yes.
actually the process that is there. Now, we created the Andreia method as a circular model because you
Yes.
come back to your default again and you start again. You may find the first time you go around the model that there is information that doesn't quite gel,
Yeah.
okay, doesn't quite fit. Well, two things you can do about that. One, you can email us and you can ask us and go, hey, I'm doing this. What do you mean by that? We will
Uh-huh.
respond. That's simple as that. We will respond. We'll give you that information. But also, if you repeat, keep going around, keep going around, it is a course to live by. It is a methodology, and you will
Yeah.
be reminded. And as you go around again and again, you will get deeper and deeper understanding of the concepts. Drag in a friend, drag in and your best buddy. If you're both
Yeah.
sitting there feeling miserable over a bottle of wine, well, it's time to go
Do
to
something
Andreia.
about
Yeah,
it.
time to go to Andreia.Solutions and see whether there is a solution there that you can both of you sign up to and work with each other. It's a really
Yeah.
good idea. Or a group of people could do this. We're actually
Yes.
talking about introducing group work in 2021, but we're not quite ready to make an offer
Yeah.
on that. But
Yeah.
ideally, we want to be starting groups of people off together and down this journey, and perhaps using Zoom and etc.
Because there is something about changing your life with other people along for the journey, isn't there? So when one person does it, it's powerful, but there's something that happens when you're with another person and you're holding each other accountable. So it tends to encourage you to keep going and keep looking at what's being brought up for you, and your ability to actually chat to another human being. Okay, this is what this is bringing up for me. This is what think that it means. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I would tend to agree with you that working in pairs is a great way to go, or in small groups. And I guess that's just the same. Like if you're going to go into this scary haunted house, you're going
Mm-hmm.
to much better chance you're going to go in there with a mate than on your own.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you and you go, well, I'll go if you go. And then we go. And that is why this program, the name of our company is Andreia. And that's about having the virtue, the ancient Grecian virtue of being ready to take yourself on and better yourself as a human being, to make
Yeah.
yourself stronger. And you often see the definition of Andrew and Andrea and those names is given as being masculine or masculine courage. It's not quite correct. It really is
Yes.
about the virtue of improving yourself. And the reason it got to be masculine is because in those days when you had hand-to-hand combat,
Yeah.
generally it was men, not always, because there were
Yes.
female warriors as well.
Yeah.
But the term was applied to whether they were really willing to have the courage to step in to go hand-to-hand combat, because it was in the hands of the gods who lived. But it's a
Yes.
much bigger concept than that. And we don't have hand-to-hand combat nowadays very, very often. But what we do find ourselves with is a continual stream of oppression and difficulties and things like my morning this morning, where everything was supposed to go smoothly. I was supposed to have lots of time to prepare for this today, but even at the last minute, we're trying to get stuff done.
Yeah.
Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
Yeah.
Having the calmness of mind to walk through and deal with it and still be walking down the road towards where I want to be, that's what the Andreia method is about. And that's why I'd say for people to go and have a look at it. But Toni, we're going to be talking about the second module, Create a New You. Can I briefly go through that?
Yes.
And yeah, okay. So the first part of it, the first lesson, there's
Yes.
4 lessons in each module, and they all come with videos and they all come with workbooks, and you can do them anywhere, anytime, on any device, when and if you're ready. But
Mm.
the first lesson, once you've discovered your default position, so we've covered off how you get information, how you process it, how you
Yes.
store trauma, and what's really
Yes.
bugging you, what really stops you, your relationship to fear and upset. So we've covered those things off in the first Discover Your Default, and you can go and listen to
Yes.
our previous episode and we'll talk a bit more about that. But now we're about creating a new you. So you know who you are. Who do you want to be? First thing you need to do is speak the truth to yourself. Speak your truth to yourself. When is it that you have not spoken your truth? When have you walked by? When have you not said to somebody something you think needs to be said? When are you not speaking up? How does that make you
Yeah.
feel? Those are the
Yeah.
questions that need to be answered, because I know in my own life that when I've not spoken up, I've felt at the very least unheard, and worse
Yes.
still, complicit in what's going on because I've not spoken up.
Yes.
And this is soul destroying.
Yeah.
Now there is ways and means in which you can do this, but often we find that when somebody's prepared to speak the truth to those that they love, their loved one turns around and goes, "Oh, thank goodness! I've been wanting to say something about that for a long time, but hey, maybe we shouldn't have got that third dog."
Yeah.
It's not, that's a silly example, but the truth about it, speaking of truth, is that then you are putting into the universe what it is that you want. You are putting it out there, and the more you can talk about what it is that you want, the more likely you are to draw it to you, because you really don't know who or what is listening.
Yeah.
So that's a really important thing. And it also, when you're speaking your truth to yourself, you can get clear as to what it is that you want out of life? And that takes us to the next lesson, which is purpose. We call it
Yes.
purpose.
Yeah.
And that's really a lesson about vision, mission, and purpose.
Yes.
People get these confused. What's a vision? Well, our definition of a vision firstly starts with this. If it's not so big that you can't possibly do it yourself, it's not big enough. It's
Yeah.
not about you. Your vision is never about you.
Yeah.
It's about the big picture. It's about having a world. For me, it's to live in a world of enlightened citizens and leaders. No chance of me being able to do that, possibly
By
even in
yourself.
in my lifetime, but certainly not on my own. So I'm going to have to enroll people
To help.
into this. Okay. So, but I do have a role in this. So
Mm.
my role
You
in my
do?
vision is my mission.
Yes.
And my mission is to create conversations such as this to enlighten individuals, coach to inspire them to do the same and be the difference.
Mm.
So that's my personal mission in this situation. I have a client whose vision is to live in a world where regenerative agriculture is the norm. Okay.
Yay.
Her role in this, given her skill base and her abilities, is to create leadership in the regenerative agricultural industry and support them
Yeah.
through the change process and whatnot. That's her mission in that. But then it goes deeper still, Toni. So
It
you've
does.
got your vision, your mission, but there's a why do you want to do that?
Mm-hmm.
The power of why.
Yeah.
Why is it? So why is it that I want to undertake my mission? Now, this is when it gets core to you personally.
Yes.
All right. You got to get in
And
there and go through.
uniquely. It's going to
You,
be uniquely you, isn't it, John? This
it's
is not something that you might share similarities with someone, but at this level, this is uniquely and divinely you. Yeah?
yeah. Well, this is That's right. This is the purpose of life. When we talk about this, the combination. I was speaking to a young lady the other day who said, "Oh, I just can't see any real point." She's a very high achiever, and
Yes.
I said to her, "Well, you're a science graduate, so you can figure out the chances of you existing."
Yeah.
Uh, so you can't. Technically speaking, if you try and work out the odds against a human being existing, we are impossible. Each and every
Yes.
single one of us is
Yes.
impossible. We're impossible as a species. The Earth is impossible, and we certainly, as individuals, are completely and utterly impossible. But never mind having the particular features that we do, and yet we are here. We defy
Wow.
impossibility. So we might as well do something with it, Toni, and we might as well have a
Yes.
fucking good time while we're here. Now, how do
Yeah.
we have the best time while we're here? Because we are here.
Yeah.
Um, and at the end of the day, we sorry, I wasn't trying to say. Yes, so we might all have a great
Our
time.
purpose.
The best time's going to be had when
Mm.
we are pursuing a big vision. We're bringing people in. We're
And
clear
we
on
have
what our mission is,
purpose.
and we have purpose in our lives. And my purpose, the reason I do this, is because I get to be love. I get to be talking to you. I get to be talking to
Our
that person who's in
listeners.
pain. I'm listening to talking to the listener and individual, and they are giving me the kindness of listening to me and allowing me to show them love and consideration.
Yeah.
And that is very humbling and very empowering. It's wonderful. It's wonderful
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. You find your vision, your mission, and your purpose. You get them aligned. Now, you've spoken your truth before in the previous lesson,
Yes.
right? And then we go on to words. This is the thing. So now
Yes.
we know what we want. We've clarified all this. We have to understand the power of language.
We do.
Okay? The power of your words. You create your Whatever it is that you're creating your imagination, you create it through words. You create it through your language, and it doesn't matter what language that you're creating in. As we said before, the imagination is your practice
Yes.
universe.
Yes.
But words are so powerful. As Hafa says, the words we use become the house we live in.
Yeah.
The words we use determine how we think. They determine what we're thinking about, how we have conversations with those around
Yes.
us, what they might or might not bring, what they think of us. Everything is empowered by the language we're using in our heads. And our internal conversations reflect in our external conversations.
They do.
So if you want to create a new you with a vision and a mission and a purpose, to be honest with yourself as to who you are and what you want to
Yes.
achieve, then the use of language and the way in which you use language is
It's
massively powerful.
important.
Well, yeah, the very simple example we use in the lessons is
Yeah.
live life with a question mark. You see, if I say my boss is a jerk, that's got a certain meaning, right?
It
But
does.
if I put a question mark after it and I go, my boss is a jerk, that's got a completely different meaning, right?
Yes.
So you can start softening up your language simply by adding a question mark.
Yeah.
And then by using the word and, we can add onto our language. We
Uh-huh.
use word, so, and I think this. Instead of using but, ditch the but, and I'm going to
Right.
add, and I think this, and so very, very important how we use our language. Try and avoid negative words and absolutes, you know.
Yeah.
I'll never achieve that. Everybody else has got a mistake. Everybody? Really? Everybody? And
Mm.
yeah, you start telling, like, teenagers tend to do that. They're all or nothing. And we discussed a lot about teenagers last week
Yes, we did.
because that's a lack of experience. If you're still being absolutist when you're getting into your 30s and 40s, that's just actually willful blindness.
Yes.
You know better. You know it's not everybody, and you know it's not everything. So mind
John,
your language.
it's about starting to question the words that you use in your mind, isn't it? It's about starting to be, to realize, oh gosh, that's, I'm being really mean to myself, or I'm beating myself up unnecessarily. But before you can take stock of the words, you have to realize the words that you're actually using. And I've been through this process and spent a lot of time examining the tracks of thoughts that go through my mind. And I've been doing this work for a long time now, and I can usually clearly recognize when I'm starting to dip back into that I'm going to beat myself up about this. So it does take practice, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It does take practice, and you know, this is also about understanding there's a gap between who you want to be and who you are,
Yes. Yes.
and that gap becomes really important because we talked about the in the first part the
Yes.
reaction and response, right? So the further you can leverage that information in trigger, instead of reacting, responding, the more
Yes.
thinking you can do in between. And
Before
that
responding.
thinking, that's right, before responding, and that thinking is
Mm.
where the gold lies. But we get onto that in conscious action when we talk about
Yes. In
being
the
your
next
hat.
one.
The last part of creating a new is about responsibility. And this is a
Yes.
really important thing. If it's to be, it's up to me, is a pretty good place to start.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do all of this information and people can come up with 100 excuses as to why it's not them, as to why it's their husband's fault, or why it's their parents' fault, or as to why it's their children's fault, or the dog's fault, or everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
What I've learned, Toni, and what we teach our clients, and what you'll learn in the Andreia method
Yes.
is find the thing you can be responsible for in the moment. So if you've just had a flaming row with your husband or your
Yes.
loved one, or your boss has just really got up your snorer and you're driving
Yes.
home from work right now, and
Yes.
you're going, I hate my job, I hate this.
Yes.
Ask yourself this question, and you might have to dig a bit, but
Yep.
what part of this situation can I take responsibility for? And
Yes.
then take responsibility for it. So in the case of a wife or a husband or whatnot, maybe they are upset about something else, and I'm not providing an excuse here, but what I
No.
am trying
But
to
it's
get
about,
to taking is
yes.
get when you take responsibility for whatever it is you can take responsibility, what you're actually doing is taking back control, because if you're not
Yes.
responsible, you have zero control. It's like we're not responsible for the technicals behind this show. Donald can cut us off like that if they
That's
wanted
right.
to, right?
They
So
won't.
we
But
haven't, they won't, but we don't have any, and it's a good example, right? But we can be,
yes.
what we can be responsible for in this situation is providing a quality show so as Don doesn't feel the need to take us off here.
That's right. That's right.
So we have
And
some control over it anyway. And then we go and we do that, and we show the other person that we're prepared to take responsibility. Let me tell you, the mimicry game comes in, and then they will look and find something they can be responsible for. And then the conversation starts going in a far healthier way.
so it's about flipping individual situations around the way that we think and the words that we use, isn't it?
It very much so. And being aware of when we are being responsible and when we're not being responsible. So we have a very
Yes.
simple model for that. For listeners that have got a piece of paper in front of them and a pen in their hand, or technically inept, clever enough to do this, the quick lesson is or bed.
Yes.
OARBED with a wavy line between it. So you write OAR down the
The
page,
page.
down the page. Then you put a wavy line across the page, and then
Yes.
under the R, you continue on down below the line with BED.
Uh-huh.
O stands for ownership. Ownership. What ownership can I take in the
In this
situation?
situation.
A stands for accountability. Where am I accountable? You always resolve it against yourself first. Where am I
Yes.
accountable? Who else is accountable for the situation? Where have I not been assertive or clear in my instructions, or wherever? Um, where's accountability?
Yeah.
R is responsibility. Okay. Have I been responsible? Have others been responsible in this matter? Now, if you are taking ownership, being accountable, and taking responsibility, then you are acting in a responsible way, and you have your oar
Yes.
in your hand, and that wavy line is the water line. And if you've got your
Yes.
oar in your hand and you're floating on the water, you're in a good spot. You've got direction,
Yes.
you've got agency, you're in control as such. However, below the water line lies the river bed. Okay,
Ah.
and the bed is B, stands for blame or shame,
Yes.
because shame is effectively self-blame, saying
Yes.
I'm a terrible person, and shaming yourself is blaming yourself.
Yes.
So we put it into the same category. B is for blame. E is for excuses. Your
Mm-hmm.
excuses and others' excuses that you're buying into, because maybe you don't want to actually have that difficult conversation with the person that's
Yes.
stuffing up your life, that you're prepared to just make an excuse for them and go, oh, well, that's just Lucy Lou, and that's
Yes.
what we expect. Fine, but it's not being
Perhaps that's
responsible.
not okay. Perhaps
Perhaps that's
that's
not okay.
something that you
That's
need
right,
to have a
and
conversation about.
that's right. And the last one is D.
Yes.
D for deniability, denial. If you are
Yes.
denying it, the none of this is happening.
Yeah.
None of this is happening, and it's all fine. It's lovely.
Yes.
All right. So if you're blaming, shaming, making excuses, or in denial, then you are not being responsible. Now, let me tell you something here. We
Yeah.
will all do it. We will
Yes.
all fall below the line. And how do you know you're
Yeah.
below the line? Well, it's the story,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The story. Stories always have a good guy and a bad guy, like a novel. And
Yes.
this is what goes on in our head. We have a good guy,
Yes.
a bad guy, and oh, Lily, she's a good person, and I'll be the bad person if I hold her to account, right? So I don't want to be the
Yeah.
bad guy, so she's a good guy.
Yeah.
It's story, right? It's all a story. The question is, are you creating a story using your language that's taking you towards where you want to be? Are you being responsible, getting on your oar and creating direction? Or are you making up a story that makes you a victim?
Ah, I see.
And if you make up a story that's making a victim, then you need to take responsibility about that and you need to change it. There's a matter of discussion and how you can do this. As I say, we all have moments when we're not responsible. But
Yeah.
those are the
And
moments when
that's
we're
human.
not, yeah, those are the moments when we are at effect and not causing.
Yes.
So the reality is, if you want to push your life in the direction you want it to be, then you need to be the cause of that. You
Yes.
need to be responsible. And if you're not the cause, you're at effect, which means you're getting what's left over. Everybody else is off getting what they want,
Yeah.
and you're just sucking it up.
And that's not a great life perspective to live by, is it, John?
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's well, it's no life. You're not living
That's
your
right.
life your way. I can assure you of that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if people want to know more about this, go to the website. Go to Andreia Andreia.solutions, and there's a button there you can click on, learn more about. You'll go there and it'll show the curriculum. And if you go further, you want to purchase it, there's buttons there. You can go and purchase the course
Of
online
course.
and get stuck into it. It's 15 minutes a day, 15 minutes a
Yes.
day over 12 weeks. You can complete the whole process. There are all sorts of aids. There's the whole course is available as an MP3, so you can listen to it as you're tootling around the place. If you're a visual learner, then each
There's
lesson is
videos.
created as a mind map, so you can see how one part is related to another part, and get that all in one shot. We've done as much as we can to engage as many senses as possible. So when you're watching the videos, you get to listen to me. Thank you very much for your attention again. But we use little graphical things to get
Yes.
your attention onto the screen. The videos are short and they have a lot in them, and we recommend people listen to them a lot more than once.
Once.
Then on top of that, if you have any questions, well, email us. We're happy
John and the
to
team. Yeah.
yep, John, or it's info@Andreia, Andreia.solutions, or me, John, JOHN. For that matter, Tanya. You can get hold of Tanya. But at
Yes.
the end of the day, there's plenty of information there where we will help you through and work through it. As I say, the reality is work with a friend also. That's a great thing to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
It really is. So that's essentially the create the new you. So you've
Module.
now how to discover your default. You've worked out, well, this is where I am now.
Yes.
And then you've gone and said, okay, so now I'm going to create a new me.
And this
Who
is
was
where I
I
want to
born to be?
be,
Yep, yep, yep. And then you'll move on to conscious action,
which is module 3, which we're
which is
going to
module 3, which we'll talk about
discuss.
next week,
Yeah.
next at 6 p.m.
Correct.
Pacific time, 12 p.m. Australian Eastern time on the respective days.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So,
So,
the thing I've learnt from talking to you, John, about the Andreia method is that there are so many tools. So, no matter what sort of learner you are, so there's videos for visual learners, there's worksheets for people who like to physically write something down. And we also know that for adults wanting to learn, there's a synergy between listening and seeing what you're wanting to learn about and then writing it down, which is why Andreia Solutions incorporates all of those different areas where adults learn, because you want this method to help people change their lives completely. And if they follow the steps and the modules, have the worksheets, they can go back and do it again and again and again. It's about creating a new life and the life that you want to lead, and addressing some of those pain points that you feel stuck with. Are you stuck? Are you looking at your life and going, I hate this job? Are you looking at a relationship and think, this is not working? Are you wanting more from your life? Well, John and the team have created a solution, and it's called the Andreia Method. And Andreia.Solutions gives you so much information about what's in the course before you even have to look at doing the course, that you'll understand how easy it is that you can change your life. And what is 3 months of your life? And of course, you can do it quicker, can't you, John?
Oh, well, you can, but this is the magic pudding thing. Like people say,
Yes,
oh, what's the magic pudding? I'm so miserable, I want a magic pudding and
yes,
it'll all be better. Well, I'm not going to sit here and offer people a magic pudding. It's just, it
yeah,
takes time, and it takes time for you to absorb it. The more time you take over it, the more time you spend with the information that's in the course, then the deeper your understanding will be and the more effective it will become.
yeah.
Um, Again, this is about taking responsibility. For me, it took me 48 years to get in a pickle, 10 years to sit in it, and 5 years to figure a way out of it. So
I
it,
was just going to say, John, if you're in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, it's taken you 30, 40, or 50 years to get to this point in your life. It's not
mm,
going to magically disappear overnight. But the thing
well,
is, if you take action in addressing why you're so unhappy, it all starts to get better,
It
doesn't
starts.
it?
It starts, Tony, and this is a set of tools that will help an individual to understand what it is, why they feel the way they do,
Mm.
what it is that they need to look at as a resolution. Now, do people get it right all the time? Well, no. In fact, it's like any strategy.
Mm-hmm.
75% of all strategy is emergent,
Yes.
and you have to make plans so as that you are prepared for the changes, and you've got some idea of what you're going to do. But as things change, you duck and weave. It's even in the Bible, and God will
Yeah.
bless your plans. However, you must have plans,
Yeah.
and the Andreia method is a plan.
Yeah.
If you look at it that way, it's a plan that says, listen, this is how you get your information on board. This is what's going on in your head. This is where your upsets come from. This is why fear is what it is and how we treat with it. Hey,
Yeah.
you need to speak your truth. You need to work out what it is you're doing here and what are the right words around creating that new future. Then get on and say, well, I'm responsible.
Yes.
And I now have to take some action, right? Who do you have to be? Who are you going to tell?
Yeah.
What are you going to get focused? And then, and most importantly, at the end of conscious action is gratitude. Gee, I'm
Mhm.
grateful. What is it
Yes.
that I'm grateful for? And it's kind of like that same responsibility conversation we had before. What is it
Yeah.
that I can be responsible for? Well, I can be grateful that I have that degree of responsibility, so as I can now take some control back into my life and make some decisions that are going to make a difference. And then we start again. So
I
the
was just
Andreia
going to
method
say,
rolls around
it's
again.
important for people to understand that change is constant. And once
Mm.
you learn to live and embrace the world in a different way, you start to then see more things. And then there's a few more things to work on. But the wonderful thing is that the pain ceases to be as prominent in your life as it once was. And that's the thing, isn't it? Even if it's an
It stops
evolution of,
running your life.
yes,
That's the
yes,
thing. It stops running your life. It stops when you can see that you are reacting, and you
yeah,
can say, hang on. And it starts. I remember myself, the
yeah,
journey starts by saying, just reacting like I always had. And I
yes,
go, oh, no, hang on, sorry. I didn't mean that. I just reacted, and I apologize. You do a fair amount of apologizing. That's
Yes. Yeah.
and what I really meant was this. Please forgive me,
Yeah.
and that requires this vulnerability.
Yes.
And as I said to you, vulnerability is a muscle, and that's why I've worked my vulnerability quite a bit, because I've had to admit
Yes.
I'm quite a bit wrong, and that's okay.
But if you think of wrong or failure as learning versus
Sure.
wrong or failure, that also helps. And
Hmm.
just those simple little truths in your life, when you look at failure as learning and education and creating that new you and creating that new life, it ceases to cause you pain.
Yeah. Well, we go ready, fire, aim.
Yeah.
Not really aim fire, because you're forever aiming. And they did this in the. I
Yes.
love that there seems to be a consistency in nature. So when in war they were using the big guns,
Yeah.
right? They would start firing and then fine tune the aim. That one went over the top. That one was too short, and the next one will hit.
Yeah.
Right? So this is just the natural order of life.
Yeah.
Failure comes before success.
It does.
Fail quickly, fail often, fail cheaply, and then reload and go again.
Yeah.
Lived experience will outpace whatever research you want, because
Yeah.
in creating that lived experience, you're creating new things. You're moving the
Yes.
universe. You're
Yes.
moving, and so you learn much faster. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Tony. Failure is, well, it should be
It's
revered. We should get
yes.
badges for for
Yes.
for
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 failing.
failure and getting no's, and you get back up
Because
on the horse. The one
that's
thing,
where you learn.
well, that's the one I was going to say. The one thing you can do wrong around failure is not learn the lesson.
Yeah.
So when something has failed, make sure you learn the lesson. Write it
Yes.
down,
Yes.
journal it,
Yes.
and say, hey, this is what happened. Get it burnt in. Whatever way you learn, burn it in, so that you don't
Yes.
do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's where you're like, oh, gee, that's really dumb. I've done my third time round on that one. Took me ages to figure this out, by the way. But people can
I
find it
know.
out very easily
I was just
by
gonna
going
say,
to the Andreia.solutions, Andreia.solutions, hit on that button that says learn more, and you'll find out there's a
will
detail of
start.
all the, yep, shows the breakdown of the curriculum. And then at the bottom, if you want to go ahead and purchase it, then there's a button there, you can go and do that. And that's fine. But, just one thing we haven't mentioned is that the price for the course is
Yes.
$397. And
Inexpensive for
well, it's very
changing your life.
inexpensive. It's very inexpensive of a place to go to change your life, when you consider that, there's well, to be honest with you, I will charge somewhere between $300 and $400 an hour for
Yes.
my time.
Yes.
So there it is. It's and you can have well,
Exactly the
perhaps not
same
everything I
stuff
know, but you can get everything you need to know
and cheap.
for $397 by simply going to the website and looking through it. And I invite people to do that and enter into a conversation with us, because I love having conversations. That's the
He
whole
does.
fun of
He
life.
does, listeners. He loves to talk. He's very, very good at it too, I must say. Now, wonderful listeners, we are completely out of time again. And as we close off this show, just a quick final reminder, if you're in that pain at the moment where life is not making sense and you want to change, jump on to Andreia.solutions, connect with John and the team, and find out how you can change your life and start 2021 from a better perspective. Now, we will be back next week. We're going to be talking about Module 3, which is my favorite module of all. And John and I will run you through what Module 3 looks like and what it's about. And we love having you on our shows, particularly in our live streams. And we look forward to connecting with you again next week. So thanks so much, John, from Andreia.solutions. Over to you, TJ, as we round out the show for this week. Bye for now. Thanks, John.